Hello, guys. This is the area and perimeter lesson that I'm going to go over with you today. I am in the Bridge to Sixth virtual notebook. You do not have these notes in your paper notebook, so you are going to need to open that virtual notebook to see what I'm seeing here. Also, in your notes, you won't have this little square or this line. I just added those for a demonstration that I'm going to do in this lesson. So if you need to, pause the video and get the virtual notebook open, Bridge to Six. If you already have it open, you can just let the video run. So today we're going to talk about area and perimeter just with rectangles and squares. And these are just notes. This is a notes page. Perimeter is the distance around. Perimeter literally means the outside of an area, okay? So if you heard someone say they were going to walk the perimeter of the practice football field, that would mean that they would be walking around the track that goes around that football field. So perimeter is measured with length, and it's only got one dimension. That's the length, and that's what this line here is for. It's just kind of like a ruler that you would use to measure the length of the outside of an area, okay? And there's two ways that you can find perimeter. You can either add up the four sides, or you can use a combination of multiplication and addition, or just multiplication if you have a square to find perimeter. The formulas are listed in your notes. For area, that's the space inside. And area is two-dimensional. It is measured with a unit that's squared, or a square unit. And it's literally a square. You're using a square that's got side lengths of 1 to measure an area. And this U just stands for units because it could be inches, it could be meters, it could be miles, it could be centimeters, millimeters. Whatever your unit is, you use a square of that size that has 1 unit sized sides to measure that area. And the area is how many of those 1 by 1 unit squares will fit inside of that area. Because you're measuring with squares, your units need to be squared when you get your answer. Area is two-dimensional. It's got length and width, or length and height. So it's two-dimensional, so the units need to be squared. And here are the formulas for that here. Now, I do have these drag and drops on your notes just to get that visualization that the perimeter is around the area. And in the case of these rectangles, really, because it's one-dimensional, the perimeter is really only one side of this rectangle. These rectangles are two-dimensional, they have area. The perimeter is literally what goes around the outside of the area, okay? So now what we're going to do is just do a little bit of practice with perimeter and area. And so we're going to click on the next slide here. You do have this in your notes because you're going to be putting a picture of your work in this text box right here when you get finished with it. So we're going to work through these problems. As I talk about each one, go ahead and pause the video to work on the next one so that you can make sure that you're doing it correctly before you get into today's activity. So in this first rectangle here, we have a rectangle, and it's got side lengths of 6 and 12. And what you need to notice is there are no units with the 6 or the 12. So that means we're just going to use the term U, or units, to write our units for the area and perimeter of this figure. So for perimeter, and this is where you want to pause it if you think you know so you can check yourself. For perimeter, there's two things that we can do, okay? We can add up all the sides, or because it's a rectangle, we know that opposite sides are equal, okay? They're parallel and congruent, or equal. We can do 2 times one of the sides and add that to 2 times the other side, okay? Either way, we'll get the same answer here. The perimeter of this rectangle is 36. And remember, since there aren't any units, we're just going to use a U for units. We can't just leave the units off because it has to be being measured with some units. Then we've got area, and since it's a rectangle, the area is just going to be length times width, or base times height. And we've got 6 times 12, and that is 72. So the area of this rectangle is 72 units. And because this is 72 little 1 unit squares filling this up, we need to square those units for the area. All right, go ahead and pause here and work number 2, because that's what I am going to go over next. So on number 2, we have a rectangle that has units, this time millimeters, and we have side lengths of 12 and 8. And since this is a rectangle, we know that opposite sides are equal. So this side is 8 millimeters also, and this side is 12 millimeters also. So for perimeter, again, we can add up all 4 of these numbers, or we can do 2 times 12, 2 times the length, plus 2 times 8, 2 times the width. So we can do 2 times 12 plus 2 times 8. So this is 24, and this is 16, and so that is 40. Okay, because 24 plus 6 would be 30, and then 10 is 40. So our perimeter here is 40 millimeters. And then for area, we need to do length times width. So that's going to be 12 times 8, and that is 96. So that's 96 millimeters, and that means 96 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter squares will fit in here. So that's 96 millimeters squared, because we're measuring that in square units. All right, go ahead and pause and work number 3. I'm just going to erase the work this time. All right, so for number 3, we have side lengths of 5 and 2. Opposite sides are parallel and congruent. We have units, which are feet. So we just need to do 2 times 2 plus 2 times 5, which is 4 plus 10, which is 14. So our perimeter is 14 feet. And area length times width, 2 times 5 is 10. So our area is 10 feet squared, because that means 10 square foot units would fit in this box. And last but not least, we've got a square. And just a little side note here, sometimes you'll have a problem that will be a word problem and it will say something about a square, or you might get a diagram that says it's a square and they might only give you one of the sides. Okay, and the reason that is because, as most of you remember, the square has 4 equal sides. So if you're told that you have a square and you're only given one side length, that's because all the sides are equal. And so you just need to use that number to find your perimeter and your area. So for this problem, you can pause and work it out and then start the video back when you're ready, because I'm going to work it out now. Each side is 3 here. That means all the sides are 3. And we know that our units are inches. So for perimeter, we can do side times 4, because there's 4 of the same number, which in this case is going to be 4 times 3, which is 12 inches. And then for area, we just want to do side squared, and squared means multiply this number by itself this many times. So that would be side times side, which would be 3 times 3, which would be 9 inches squared. All right, so that is the notes for today. For your assignment for today, you're going to just need to go into Schoology. And just as a note to you, if you look over on this side under upcoming, don't worry about the very first thing here, Bridge to 6, because that's your interactive notebook, and we will talk about that on Friday. But these other 4 assignments all are due tomorrow. So Bridge to 6 quiz, that was from last week. If you didn't finish that, that's due tomorrow. Football fractions from Tuesday's due. The integers quizzes from Wednesday's due, and then the task cards from today are also due. This is your assignment for today, so if you go ahead and click on that, it's going to take you to the set of task cards. And I'm going to preview those so you will see the same thing on my screen that you'll see when you go in here to take this. It is graded. And the instructions say solve the problems on the task cards. If the answer is fill in the blank, enter the number only. So please, when you get your answer, just enter the number of your answer. You do not need to enter any units because I've got the units there for you. See, I've got the units at the end of the line. You're just typing in the blank what should be going on this line, and you wouldn't write the units twice. So just put in the number, not the units, and you'll have 2 attempts, and Schoology will record your highest score. There's 12 questions on here. Some are multiple choice, some are fill in the blank. And this is your assignment for today, but the due date is tomorrow. And remember, we'll have a catch-up day tomorrow for you to get this work done. If you have any questions in the meantime, go ahead and shoot me a Schoology message, and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. Thanks, guys. See you soon.